It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. Needed someone to understand my...
Good morning and welcome once again to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. I'm Gene Sullivan.
And I'm Tony Crockett. Good morning.
Good morning. We've got a great show lined up for our listeners today. We've got a number of stories that we're following. If you may recall, a while back we had talked about a reporter in Las Vegas, Nevada, who monthly has a piece that she calls the Homeowner Association Hall of Shame. And we're going to begin the show with our first story with going through this story. And it is, I guess I would agree.
Her most recent entry into the Hall of Shame? Is that what it's about? I see.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And we're going to follow it up, no connection here whatsoever, with some great guidelines that someone published in the Chicago Tribune on advice on making effective board decisions. And I think some really good information.
Good.
And then we're going to be covering a little bit later on, too, a story that's called the $20,000 question. A homeowner association was charged with $20,000 in fees from the city where their homeowner association is located. And we'll talk about and see whether something like that is warranted and is a great idea or not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to talk about why that happened.
Yeah. But before we begin, it is with anything else here, it is time to move forward with property management in the news. Property management in the news today is brought to you by Pest Control Services. When you need to get rid of unwanted pests in your home or rental property, you want to call someone who's responsive, professional, and a proud member of Angie's List. Give owner Greg Keener a call at 952-894-9748. That's Pest Control Services. Let's go ahead with our first story.
And whatever happened to love thy neighbor? As Chief Investigator Darcy Spears reports, it seems one HOA is repeatedly forgetting that concept. We'd like to once again welcome Southern Highlands into our HOA Hall of Shame.
Karen Hanks will never live in another HOA again.
I'm really infuriated at this point.
What's infuriating for her is that something so silly
and trivial, in my opinion, yes,
has been going on for so long.
And to me, it's reprehensible.
Karen and her boyfriend bought this home in the Bellaterra community of Southern Highlands in 2006. It had everything they wanted, including a patio cover.
In fact, the backyard was one of the biggest selling points of this house for me.
They lived here peacefully for about 2 years.
About March of 2008, the HOA notified me that I had a violation for a patio cover. After being 2 years here, I thought that must be a mistake. You have the wrong house.
But they persisted, even sending her this email saying you are responsible to file the proper paperwork for violations on the property, even if the previous owner failed to do so.
Not that there's anything wrong with the patio cover.
No, nothing wrong with the patio cover. Not saying it has to come down. They just want the application and the $50 fee.
In good faith, Karen filled out the forms, even though she didn't have any construction detail. She even paid half the application fee, $25 she feels she didn't owe, as a show of good faith and to make the whole thing go away.
They cashed the check. So I think it's settled.
Southern Highlands approved the forms in April 2009 with the notation that the patio cover was installed by the previous owner. But that didn't stop the fines. The HOA sent this letter in July 2009 saying they'd remove $550 in fines if she paid $25 more for the violation.
They're just sticking to their guns that stringently.
Yes. So I stuck equally to my guns. And I said, no, I'm not doing it.
She's a homeowner and a lawyer who knows her rights and knows the law. She told them so and refused to pay the additional $25.
It's all principle at this point, and I'm very aware of that.
She says she heard nothing until May of this year when Southern Highlands sent this letter saying they intended to lien her house. The fines to date are up to $725.
I think it's reprehensible, is my opinion. It's reprehensible. I think they thought I was going to be a homeowner that would just pay it and walk away. And I don't know how many other homeowners they've done that to.
We reached out to Southern Highlands multiple times in every conceivable way, via phone, via email. We even tried contacting them through their attorney, but they refused to respond in any way until we got CAI, the HOA industry trade group, involved.
Attorney Paul Terry is Community Association Institute's incoming president.
But I think there was stupidity. I think there's a question as to whose stupidity it was on which side. But as far as I'm concerned, when it's about $25, it should never rise to this level.
Terry brought this check for $50 to pay off Southern Highlands for their out-of-pocket costs, and he says he's been told that will make this whole thing go away.
What do you say to those who say it's just rewarding bad behavior?
As I said, I'm not quite sure whose bad behavior I'm rewarding. It could be the homeowners, it could be the associations.
He believes there was bad communication on both sides and that reason took a back seat to bad blood.
We try the best we can to teach both sides about reasonableness and doing the right thing and resolving problems and staying off of Channel 13.
The Southern Highlands Board still has to vote on whether Paul's $50 check will wipe the slate clean for Karen Hanks. We'll be following this very closely to see if they make good on that.
And this, of course, came from KTNV, Channel 13, an ABC affiliate in Las Vegas, Nevada. A regular piece called the Homeowner Association
Hall of Shame. And, of course, Nevada. I mean, isn't it still true that Nevada is very sparsely populated? And yet about 60% of our stories about HOAs come out of Nevada. They got a wild group of people out there.
Folks just don't seem to get along with one another, do they?
And it's the Wild West, maybe.
And that is certainly the case here with this story. I think the story began with the reporter asking the question, where is the voice of reason?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder. I mean, we're not talking about anything huge here. I mean, we have some stories where you're talking about fines that are thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Sure, and about lawsuits because of tens of thousands of dollars of water damage that isn't repaired or damaged roofs or whatever. This is small potatoes.
We're talking $50, and you have two sides that just seem to be immovable in their position.
Yeah, that's true, and it's too bad that it escalated to this point. I mean, putting a lien on the house means that's the first step in foreclosing on the house. And they're going to foreclose on a house for $725 that was accumulated fines, not the cost of repairs,
not
the cost to make something right, but accumulated fines for not paying $25.
It is homeowner association boards that will do this kind of thing that I think is causing the reaction around the country with lawmakers to say, you know what, maybe the association's ability to foreclose ought to be taken away from them. Because if you're going to act that way...
It's a misuse of that privilege.
Oh, to be sure.
I was struck by this. To me, and this is the reality, I think, whether or not it's actually true. The Homeowners Association represents the authority in these stories. They always do. They're the big guys. They're the authority. At worst, they're considered to be as evil as a landlord, that kind of thing. To me, it's that side's responsibility to make these things peaceful, to resolve these things, to try and educate people and work things out with people. I think they're the ones that have to take the higher ground when you've got two factions butting heads.
Yes, in the very least, to put things in perspective.
Exactly. I'm not saying they have to give in on a rightful issue, but I'm saying they're the ones that have to have the cool heads. They have to be the ones communicating. They have to be the ones with the open door and not just be slamming down their fists and stomping their little feet.
Yeah, and the other side of this, though, too, also deals with the homeowner, who wants to Everything seems to be a matter of principle,
right?
And what they're referring to as a matter of principle in truth really is someone who does not understand how a homeowner association operates.
That's right.
And so they're misunderstanding. They're choosing not to take the time to have read those governing documents that they got before they bought the home.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
Is causing a lot of this heartache.
So it's very possible that this new homeowner is responsible for something that the seller did 2 years prior.
Yeah.
I mean, that can happen.
Yeah.
And if she had reviewed her governing documents, she is an attorney. She's probably accustomed to reading legal documents. She could have prepared herself for this eventuality. And then for her to just so stubbornly refuse to take care of the issue. What you had some suggestions, Gene, for how she might have handled this differently.
Yes, and I'd like to do that, but by looking at the clock on the wall, I think we need to take a quick break. Let's do that. But when we come back, Tony, let's talk about and ask the question, how should the board have acted in this situation? How should the homeowner have acted if either one had done so? Might have caused things to not be this showdown that we have heard here on this news piece. Let's take a break now. You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280, The Patriot.